This is Tony Cooper, and I'm just sitting down. Okay, well, here we go again. Listen, for this one, this is more of a pre-interview, a pre-interview missive, something for me to tell you, if you will, what's coming. And what's coming is an interview that I did back in 2021 with Shelby Eames, um, and an actress that she used for a film of hers. Um, and that her name is Nagisa, and she's formally introduced in the interview. The objective of this particular segment of this podcast, which is also going to be on the YouTube channel, is to tell you a little bit about what happened, kind of a preview of what you're to expect. The entire interview actually lasted just over an hour, but because of some sound issues and maybe a camera issue or two, we had to do a lot of chopping. Also, the recorded side for my part of the interview did not go as planned. And as a result, I had to recreate some of the question uh, making. I had to recreate some of the questions and make separate video of that. And I did that not long after I actually did the interview, probably a couple of 3 weeks. So the objective of this part is to let you know that so that you're not looking at it saying, man, does he sound stiff? Because I do. I really do sound quite stiff in the questions portion. Some of it is genuine. The rest of it, I was just reading off of a teleprompter. The issue with doing it this way is it doesn't feel natural all the time. But since it was only me doing the recreation and not Shelby and Nagisa, um, what transpired is partial real time and partial recorded later. Just so you know, I like to try to be as honest as possible with you. So I want you to know that this was recorded, both parts were recorded separately. So without further ado, I'm just going to get straight to it and let you watch everything and introduction to this wonderful film by Shelby Eames. There's more information about it in the interview. See you on the other side. So, not too long ago, I had the distinguished opportunity to talk with an old friend and to get some insight from her and an actress that she has been working with on a film that she made. And I want to go back to the interview, which was not too long ago, just a few weeks now. Prior to her release of this particular film, and she divulged a lot of things I think that most people would expect about the direction of a movie, the production, all that stuff. But some other things about herself in something of a more personally revealing interview having to do with the film and with inspirations for it and so on and so forth. So, with that, I'm going to bring you to the interview. Please understand the conditions under which this interview were done is that she was located in her flat in London, England, and it was being recorded professionally on a pro camera with a microphone that picked up a lot more than just the voices that you hear. And one of the things that I found only slightly distracting, at least initially, is there's some ambient noise. They closed a window. There are some other factors that you may or may not hear, but when they are talking, you can't hear it as much. So I'm going to suppress the sound from their side when I am talking, so that you're not distracted by it. But here's how the interview went. I am located in a separate location. I got their recorded files not long ago and made this. Here we go. So, first of all, let me introduce to you Shelby Eames. Like I said, who is a longtime friend of mine. And we started working together back in maybe 2011, 2012, when Shelby was quite the aspiring makeup artist, which I trust has come in handy for her over the years. She has since traveled to a number of locations, including London, Japan, Spain, and France, New York City, back to London, where she is now. And that's where we talked with her, along with a an actress from her film who is the lead actress, and her name is Nagisa Shago, who was visiting Shelby for the weekend, and we decided to put this podcast together at that time. And I wanted to start with Shelby. Can you tell us about the film?
This is harder than I thought it was going to be already. um, what in particular would you like to know about the film?
Well, all films come from a story of some kind, where origins may be a dream, something given to you, or something that has happened to you that you want to share. What is depicted here and what you want people to take away from this is what I'm actually kind of getting at.
So the inspiration for the film came from basically a challenging time in my life when I was living in Tokyo. Um, I had sold everything and moved to Japan, and I thought that my life would be a lot better there. And I had a lot of disappointments and setbacks, and the language barrier was really challenging. And there was one day that I was in the subway and I felt really overwhelmed, and I started having a panic attack. And I closed my eyes and I tried to catch my breath. And I I noticed when I close my eyes that there's like this moving image kind of playing across my mind like a film. And I had just taken a cinematography class. So it was the first time, because this has always been kind of a common occurrence for me. Like I close my eyes and then I'll see little clips. So I I sort of put two and two together and realized that I could make what I was seeing into a film. And so that's where that all began. And from there, I felt really inspired to show people what it's like to experience post traumatic stress disorder. Um, and part of my vision now and in the long run is for this to be educational, but also artistic. And yeah, I want to use it eventually to like help people have a voice that suffer from this condition.
That's an interesting answer. You're almost giving away all the secrets of the world's greatest filmmakers. So, correct me if I'm saying it wrong or butchering it in some way, but Nagisa, how did you meet Shelby?
You didn't butcher my name. That's nice. So we had a mutual friend, an American filmmaker in Tokyo, who was gonna shoot the film, and he put us in touch. So he messaged me and he said, "There's this short film. I think it might interest you, and you could fit the part." And he put us in touch, and then I met Shelby.
That's cool, especially since you were both from different places but met in Japan.
Yeah, but it's quite, I mean, in Tokyo, like, it's quite a small community. So even though it's like we're worlds apart from each other in Tokyo, it kind of connects us, all being in the same creative industry and all trying to, you know, make movies. It kind of connects us.
Okay, so Shelby, you sort of told me what your inspiration was, but what about the story? From what little I've seen, you've indicated that this is more of a remnant of the life of someone with PTSD. Why this story to tell that emotional tale?
It's a really good question. Um, I think my answer might be a little bit circuitous and exploratory, because I don't have like a pat answer. Um, there are pieces of the story that came to me along the way. There's the original vision that came to me in the subway. And then as time kind of went on, I mean, one of the things that happened was COVID. So originally, the story would have been quite different, and the way that we shot things would have been really different. Um, Initially, I wanted this concept of Unsaid to be like the lead actress was completely faceless and without a name. Um, so everything would be shot from behind. And then I sort of decided that wasn't a risk that I wanted to take. Because obviously we want to see like full facial expressions and everything. Um, but yeah, I did some exercises, like just jotting down notes on note cards. And I also interviewed the main character. Um, and that was really interesting because after that, I really felt like I knew these characters. Um, and I imagine that they're like some part of my psyche, but they felt like living and breathing to me. So I feel like I don't have like a straight answer for that, but it was kind of like, um, and I feel a little bit like a tool in saying this, but I also watched a lot of videos by David Lynch, and he said that when you have an idea, don't have an attachment to the outcome, just let the idea live and breathe and have a life of its own. Um, so I essentially allowed the idea and the characters to tell me who they were and where they wanted the story to go. Um, I think probably if I sat down with a psychoanalyst or somebody, they would say that I'm like very disturbed, or that I've, got some unresolved issues. But yeah, that's essentially it.
You hit the nail right on the head. And that when we sit down with the psychoanalyst, that we end up telling way more than anyone expected. And they're going, does this guy need some additional therapy, perhaps medication? Oh my goodness. Nagisa, what did you think about this project initially?
So when I read the script, I thought it was really dreamy. Like there were not many dialogues, so I thought this could be interesting. Obviously, there'd be like a lot of directing from the director, and I was really interested. I had never done anything like that that would talk about PTSD and anxiety, and so I was really drawn to the project. And I thought, that there'd be lots to work with once on set. So I was really excited.
Sounds like it. So many possibilities for anyone, especially for someone who's at the beginning of their career. Now, I realize that Nagisa is hardly a beginner, but something that is fascinating to me is that she is early in her career, which is like the first 15 years, let's say. Seasoned would be more like 50, I guess. Um, so, Shelby, did you learn anything during this movie, and what was it?
So many things. Yeah, different stratospheres. I mean, on a personal level, I learned so many things about myself and about life. Obviously, I learned a lot about filmmaking, directing, writing, acting, not acting, a little bit about acting in a way, though, because I felt like it was important to empathize with the actors. So I ended up taking some acting classes too. Um, yeah. Which pot do you want me to delve into?
I think we're going to get to that in a minute. If you don't learn something from every project you do, then you're probably doing it wrong. Am I right?
Yeah.
Nagisa, what elements drew you more to the character you played?
I really related to the character because I also experienced some, not PTSD, but some form of trauma when I was a teenager. And the character had a lot of similarities with me. So that's why when I met Shelby, it was really strange because we instantly connected. Like, even though it was the first time we met, there was no barriers between us, which was kind of scary. So I thought, this is so strange. This person is going to be my friend and we're going to work on this film. And the character just felt like a reflection of me as well. And I thought, okay, I'm not going to play myself, but I'm going to use elements of myself that I share with this character to create this character that Shelby has written.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's great when you can use a little bit of who you are because it peels back a layer for the audience who may be asking, who is this person really? Okay, so Shelby, how did you find your casting crew?
It was almost as easy as that, which I hate to say because I see how much other directors go through for casting. I Yeah, I know some directors in London, and one, for instance, it's like, anyways, um, yeah, no, it was very simple. I think I was really fortunate because, um, like Nagisa said, the network is really small in Tokyo. So there's certain people that just stand out in that network. And the cinematographer, James Honeycutt, was really instrumental in bringing the project together. Um, there's just a lot of aspects where it was very synergistic. Um, we had this chemistry, he and I, where I pitched the project to him and I could tell he was really excited about it. And then he he like knew what the vision was and he understood it really well, like innately. Um, so yeah, sometimes I was writing, producing, and directing this, and so it's the first project. And so there were times when I got really overwhelmed and I would just say, hey, we need this person. And then he said, I know exactly who you should talk to. So it just worked out really, it's like smooth that way. Um,
I love it when everyone just clicks.
yeah. I also took some advice from David Lynch again. I don't mean to fangirl about David Lynch so much, but he his casting process was that he would look at photos of actors and he would follow his instinct and intuition. And apparently he's never done like formal castings or auditions. He just kind of trusts his gut. Um, so in a similar sense, that was the process with this as well.
That's very intriguing, especially the David Lynch reference. I don't think he screwed up casting anywhere just because you look at the character in a body of work of his, for example, and you think, that was such perfect casting. Nagisa, who would you say is your biggest influence as a lead in this film?
That's a difficult question. I'd say it's a mixture of a lot of people that I've met in my life. Shelby as well, because when she, we talked about the project, I instantly knew this was something that was based on her life. So you were also one of my influences, of course. I guess a bit of myself and people that I've met in my life, that I could see parts of them in this character. So yeah, I'd say a mix of a lot of people in my life.
That's great. That's just as an acceptable answer as if you were to say an ant on the wall, because you really could have said anything or anyone, and that becomes part of who you are. I've always believed that inspirations can come really from anything, especially if they can relate to the character or the circumstance that you're working toward. I can say that because I have always attributed my desire to be a creator through the influence of my mother, because she was always creating something, sewing, embroidering, whatever. And that's really where mine came from. Shelby, what did you like best and least about the movie?
Um, I can tell you what I like least right now.
Well, you can tell me anything and then tell me later if you want me to include it in the podcast.
Um, as much as it is exciting to learn and bring things together in post production, that has been a really big challenge for me. Um, I think in particular, what I don't like about post production is it's more hermetic. Like I'm by myself sending emails and coordinating things more. Um, Whereas I just loved being on set. Yeah, like I felt so grateful to be on set. And I had this energy and this drive, and it was all shared, this like shared energy and motivation and passion that we all had. And it made me feel like that's where I want to be every day for the rest of my life. Um, but the shooting is such a small part of the filmmaking process. And then it's like to the drawing board. And I've had to, I think in pre production, there's like a certain amount of courage involved in just trusting the creative process, trusting myself, trusting the crew. Uh, but it's been like a different kind of courage and like having faith in the process, in the post production, that I find pretty challenging. Um, and now I'm finally gotten to the point where it's just, it's all kind of starting to line up. So that's been a good feeling. Yeah, that's all.
That's a lot to unpack because in the filmmaking world, there's the pre production people at the beginning, the directorial segment in the middle, and the post production people at the end. You often straddle the line between any two. And trying to be all three is the recipe for disaster and would only get you into therapy a little bit faster than anything else. It sounds to me like you have straddled the best two because in post production, you get to finesse your precious footage from shooting segments and how it's being processed in the same vision that you saw when you were in direction. I feel like any good storyteller imparts what you want it to be when it gets into the editor's hands. So, Nagisa, looking back on your experience, what would you change about anything that you contributed?
I don't think I'd want to change anything because for this short film, like I really gave all I had to give. Like the shoot was so intense and everybody was involved. But there are things that I wish I had done differently. Like, for example, the underwater scene, like I wasn't quite ready for it. Like I thought I would be ready. But when we started shooting it, I realized I definitely should have mentally prepared myself to go underwater and act underwater, which was actually quite difficult to do because I had to still be in character and still also think about breathing and the fact that I was, underwater. And yeah, I think that's just it.
That's interesting. What I have seen so far in watching the edit did not include the water scene, but I did have the privilege of reading the script and am aware of the scene of which you speak and I wonder how they shot that. But there's a lot more to it from your perspective, obviously. This is not sitting in a desert waiting for a plane to go over, but this is water, and humans don't breathe water. So it had to be unnerving. Shelby, what do you want your audience to take away from this?
I want them to be immersed in the sensation of what it feels like to experience PTSD.
That's a good answer, and it just harkens back to the exact reason you did this. Nagisa, what other work have you done?
So I've done other short films in Japan, one that I actually wrote, and it actually won an award in an LA festival. And then a features film shot in Japan as well, which was inspired on my life.
Thank you again.
So it seems as though we are amid celebrity now. Take it where you can get it. Listen, once you get to a point where paparazzi are surrounding you at every moment of every day that you're in public, you're more worried about whether you're going to trip over something on the way to the car than you are about getting accolades. Shelby, are there elements of the film that you think you would want to change at this point?
Yes and no. Uh, I feel so before I did film, like growing up, I was always writing a lot. And I think with the writing process, it never feels like you have your final cut or your final edit. And I think it's the same thing with film, is what I've realized. So when you ask me things that I've learned, probably one of the most challenging, but also, I don't know what word I want to use, but like worthwhile lessons is that just like I have to let the idea breathe a life of its own, I have to kind of let the piece of art live the way that it's supposed to and just accept that like it's turned out how it has. Um, and I think so far, just with like, some of the private screenings I've had, not private screenings, but I've shown it to some people. I've realized it may have the impact, or part of the impact that I wanted, and even then some. Because the feedback I often get is that it reminds people of different aspects of their own lives, and there's no shared experience. I think that people watch it, and it's very personal to them. So that's been interesting to see, and yeah, I think now I just sort of trust that it's turned out the way that it was meant to be. And I don't know, people could hate it or love it or be indifferent about it. And I'm just really glad that I got to do this project and that, the cast and crew believed in the idea enough to take part of it because when I was initially sitting down and putting all the pieces together, I mean, it's surreal now that I'm sitting in like a little studio slash my living room in London with Nagisa and yeah, I just feel grateful that it's like gotten to this place, because it was sort of like, it was almost like I had it written on napkins, and I was just like, I don't know if this is ever going to be anything that's worth anything to anyone.
I get that same feeling as a creator for over 40 years now, that I always want to look at anything I'm about to start and ask, am I going to be able to do this? And then when we're like three-quarters of the way done, you realize that you really did do the thing. It's just so satisfying. Now, I guess, what other projects are you considering or working on?
Not at the moment, no.
Shelby, you sort of already answered my next question, which was what character do you think you most sympathize with? So I'm going to ask you instead what other projects you're working on.
Too many.
Such are the perils of a creator.
Yeah, I just want to add a comment to that. So there's a condition called synesthesia. Where, are you familiar with that?
Unfortunately, I am.
Do you have synesthesia?
Not officially, but there are times that I have been less than able to work.
Okay.
So, yeah, for anyone that is not aware of what synesthesia is, it's a condition where you can like taste colors, or for it expresses itself in a lot of different ways, but uh, for some people it's tasting colors. For others, it's like when they do any math problem, like the numbers all have characters and relationships with each other, and they can't not associate the colors and the numbers in these ways. So I thought about that condition and PTSD in a similar way, because I read, there's a really amazing book called The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. And he did, I think, over 20 years worth of research on PTSD. And it was so fascinating to me because you go back hundreds of years and there's all these stories of possession and people leaving their body and so on and so forth. But now with neuroscience, it's like we can track all of these conditions to a certain part of the brain. And for instance, in BTSD, I can't remember what part of the brain this stems from, but there's actually an aspect of it where it causes you to feel like you're leaving your body and having an out of body experience. Um, and I guess to be a little bit personal, that was part of the inspiration for the film, because um, I had some traumatic things happen to me, and I spent my entire life having out of body experiences. Um, and sometimes it didn't really make a lot of sense. It could just be someone using a certain voice, and then all of a sudden, I would see a white light and I would be like lifted out of my body. Uh, and so I always had these certain beliefs built up around that to support that image. And then when I read that book, it was the first time I understood that there is something neurologically happening to me that was explained by the trauma. So that's a very specific example in the film where it's not expressed explicitly, but I created this imaginary condition called dissociative narcolepsy, where Ava, the lead character, she has flashbacks to her trauma, and then she falls asleep and leaves her body and enters this dark dream world. So it's all inspired by the science and by real life experience. And then I kind of morphed it into something that's sort of like the magic realism genre.
That's both fascinating and scary. What other things do you think are important about this body of work that either of you want to impart among people? Is there anything else you want to see passed along to people before they see this so that they understand what they are seeing before they watch that?
No, because I actually prefer people know less before they watch it. Um, if anything, I would want them to have a spark of curiosity um, that would lead them to learning more about PTSD once they've watched it. But I would rather them not know explicitly that that's what it's about before they see it.
This has been great. Do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, there is a project I'm hoping to shoot either next summer or next fall. And it's called Inward. And it's about this woman's spiritual journey inward after the apocalypse. Um, Everyone in the world dies at the same time. And it's, I want it to be an exploration of what it means to be human. So, inspired by my isolation in Japan.
There have been a number of films that have explored a post apocalyptic world, and they've all taken a different bent that is hard to make without also duplicating every other film of the same type. But as long as you don't have zombies, you should be able to produce something more than worthwhile watching.
I'm too afraid of zombies to ever make a zombie movie.
With that, then, it sounds like we're done with the questions and answers. Thanks for joining me from your large, spacious flat.
Just wanted to say thank you for interviewing us. This has been really nice.
Yes, thank you.
Hopefully, what you're doing, and this applies to both of you, will give you hope that someone does know what's going on, and then it's on to solving the problem. With that, I'm going to bid you adieu and a heartfelt thank you, both Shelby and Nagisa, for a wonderful conversation.
You too. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you again from myself and from all my listeners and watchers. Okay, so as you heard, a lot of what was said and what was part of my side of the interview was very static, very stationary, but it's all the same simply because the questions were original questions. Like I said, some of it we did have to cut out, so there may be a couple of skips in there of logic, but I think Shelby is very talented. I think she has a lot going for her, and I really expect to see great things for her. I don't know everything that she's doing right now, but I do know that I really hope to have her on again at some point. And I wanted to reiterate that point with everybody else. If you are an artist, who is looking for at least some minor way to get the word out about what we're doing, about what you're doing, about all of your art, your elements, your struggles, your challenges, your successes, your wonderful moments, your art. We would love to see your art. I can kind of work with you on just about anything. I'm more than happy to share my process with you. I'd love to talk with anybody who is looking to get their art out because this is just one channel, one method of doing that. Likewise, I think if you are somebody who is either struggling with mental health or you have some information to share with my listeners about mental health, I would love to talk with you as well. This is a kind of a dual purpose channel. It is an artist space, but it is also a place where we can safely talk about mental health struggles, mental health successes and other things of that nature. So please feel free to contact me. There's lots of information about how to get hold of me. A lot of it may be right here. Some of it will be in profiles or in comments. And we'll look forward to talking with you about an upcoming episode. For now, though, I'm going to leave you be, and we will talk to you soon. Have a wonderful week.